Survivor Series WarGames 2025 is finally here, and WWE is giving us a stadium show that looks pretty insane on paper. You've got two world champions teaming up, Roman Reigns stepping back inside WarGames. You have John Cena defending the Intercontinental title in a way that nobody saw coming. Nikki Bella returning to chase gold in a women's war games match that could genuinely steal the entire weekend. This is the official Pro Wrestling Escape preview and predictions, and we are diving into everything. Welcome back to the Pro Wrestling Escape podcast. This is your home for wrestling breakdowns, nostalgia, storylines, and your hottest takes every single week. And before we dive in, I always like to just say thank you to everybody who's been tuning in. And thank you for those of you tuning in for the first time. Whether it's 20 of you, 50 of you, one of you, or just myself, it truly means the world to me that you're choosing to spend the next 15, 20, 25-ish minutes, depending on this episode, with me as I talk about wrestling. You're the reason this show keeps rolling. And just a shout out to the Escape crew. All right, we're going to jump into this week in WWE history. This week in WWE history, we are looking back at a iconic Survivor Series moment. We're going to go all the way back to November 22nd, 1990. I was just a wee little baby. This is when The Undertaker debuted. Do I remember this live? Absolutely not. Do I remember it 3 or 4 years later? Yes. This is one of the most important entrances, I think, in WWE history. Instant chills, timeless moment, and we can all just see Undertaker walking down that ramp for the first time. And Survivor Series, will always give us something wild, and I do think this year looks no different. And we're going to go ahead and get into the main event. All right, so for the main event, it is going to be me breaking down the matches. I'm going to give a quick preview and my predictions. We're going to start it off hot. We're going to do the men's War Games match. And I have no idea what the team's called because they were kind of arguing in the ring on Raw. We have Punk, CM Punk, Cody Rhodes, Roman Reigns, Jey Uso, and Jimmy Uso. And they will be teaming up and going against Lesnar, Drew McIntyre, Logan Paul, Braun Breaker, and Big Bronson Reed. So we're just going to start with the match that's going to define the night, I think. And I think this men's War Games match, it's clearly been building for months. And I do think WWE has layered the story in a fantastic way. You have Cody Rhodes and CM Punk, two world champions currently, who have spent this entire year kind of circling, each doing two world champions who they have each other's respect. There is some tension and zero trust. And kind of like Roman Reigns said on Raw recently, we don't love each other. We just hate the other team more. And with Roman, he's kind of been, I think, in the pick your shots era, if you will. And obviously, with movies and Hollywood, that's I think in his near future, and he's already kind of started that. But after Braun Breaker and Big Bronson Reed ambushed him backstage and then power bombing him through a production table, Roman had no choice but to return. It was all expected and announced. But I do think in this match, the biggest wild card is going to be the Usos. They're on the same team. Their entire saga, if you think about it, betrayal, reunions, heartbreak, and it's now being put aside for this one night. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know because either way, I think the tension there is gonna build, and I already kind of feel it. And now we're gonna move to the heel side. We have Paul Heyman's Chaos Army, the most dangerous group that he's put together since peak Lesnar, if you will. Brock Lesnar returning the night after SummerSlam and then destroying everyone without saying a word. Pretty telling moment. Drew McIntyre, fueled by his bitterness, determined to hurt Punk and Cody until he gets another title shot. I mean, I do think he fits the War Games perfectly with everything that's been happening to him recently. Then you got Logan Paul, who of course betrayed Punk and one of the most disrespectful cheap shot endings I've seen this year. And he's just been running his mouth nonstop. He is so good at what he does, claiming he can outdraw Punk and outtalk Cody and outwork Roman. Then you got Braun Breaker, Bronson Reed, collectively known as the Vision. Two just, I think, freak athletes that WWE has been, I think, protecting almost like a early 2000s Lesnar, especially Braun Breaker. Wow. I just really had a mind slip there. But both those guys are explosive, terrifying, and I do think that they're just built for matches like this. This is definitely WWE's Avengers moment, if you will. You have a ton of egos, a ton of potential for betrayal, and of course Roman and Cody in the same cage again, and then you have Punk and Logan face to face. Just I think it's going to be a solid match. Now, getting to the prediction, we all know WWE loves to close Survivor Series with a feel good visual, assuming this is the main event. So I'm going to stick with the baby faces. Now, when the ending credits hit, remember to keep your TV on. Triple H's been really obvious with that, but I am going to take the baby faces. You got Punk, Rhodes, Reigns, and the Usos to win the War Games. But somebody's absolutely getting murdered by Brock Lesnar in the process. I don't know if there's going to be a heel turn there or not between the Usos. I genuinely do not know. I hope. I want all heel turns. As I get older, I'm becoming a cranky old man. Therefore, I'm all for the heels. Moving on to the women's War Game match. You have Rhea Ripley, Io Sky, Alexa Bliss, Charlotte Flair, and AJ Lee going up against Becky Lynch, Nia Jax, Lash Legend, Asuka, and Kari Sane. Now, I think this is a great match on paper. Probably the best one they've put together in recent years for War Games. And first, of course, starting with Rhea Ripley, who's been this division's final boss, if you will, for almost 2 straight years. I do kind of think they're putting her on the back burner, which because that way she doesn't turn into Rhea Hogan like everybody claims. But she walks into every big match just looking unbeatable, and most of the time she is. Next, you have Io Sky, her bestie, fresh off rebuilding herself after Damage Control falling apart. And then she's really solidified her name alone, solo away from Damage Control. Now, her former partners, you have Asuka and Kari claiming that she was never the real leader. That just adds fire to this entire match. I will say I'm a little over Io Sky and Rhea Ripley's just bromance, if you will. It's great that they're great friends, but it's getting a little much for me. Again, my opinion, hate me if you want, but I'm kind of over it. I need Rhea Ripley to be a badass again, not this softy. Then you got Charlotte Flair, who's been quietly putting in, I think, some of her best work since 2018. Now I know she hasn't had a title chase. I do think she's just proven that she still can run this division. Add in Alexa Bliss. We are all happy to see her back, and she does seem confident in the ring. Her no nonsense energy that fans missed, and then of course the shock of the year, AJ Lee returning and now stepping into her first ever War Games match. Across from them is a heel team that feels chaotic in all the right ways. You have Becky Lynch's heel turn, which changed the division instantly. She's bitter. She's tired of being the hero, and I think she's just damn good at being the villain. Some people find her annoying. I think she's great at being the villain, which is part of being the villain. You want to hate them. Nia Jax is still one of the most dominant pieces of that women's division. And War Games is just built for somebody like her. Then you have Lash Legend, who I think has had a breakout year, especially in NXT, and then WWE bringing her up and trusting her in this match, I think says a lot about her future. And she is insanely athletic and insanely massive. Just wait until you see her standing in the ring with Alexa Bliss. This is going to look really odd. And then you had the Kabuki Warriors, Asuka and Kari Sane turning on Io Sky earlier this year. Sparked one of the most emotional women's stories, I think, in 2025. My prediction on this, I do think the baby faces take this one too. I do think AJ Lee will tap out Becky Lynch to finish it. Feels like that's the story WWE wants to head, especially going into a Royal Rumble. So yeah, I'm going with the baby faces on that one. Next up, we have the Intercontinental Championship. We have the man John Cena, current champion, versus Dominic Mysterio. Nobody had this match on their 2025 bingo card. And if you did, you're full of it. But I absolutely love it. John Cena, almost 20 years of not having this title, finally wins the Intercontinental title against Dirty Dom. Clean on Raw. And then Dom immediately demanded the rematch in his hometown of San Diego. And I do think this is perfect old school storytelling. Young, cocky heel talks too much, veteran shuts him up. heel gets one last chance in front of his hometown crowd. And the crowd for this match, it's gonna be kind of nuts. I think Dom, he gets booed everywhere, right? Except I don't know about San Diego, where the reaction becomes this bizarre, a mix of cheers, boos, chaos, noise, piped in noise. Who knows? All of it. Now, my prediction, as funny as it would be for Dirty Dom to cheat and steal that belt back, I do think WWE is letting Cena keep this title all the way up until Saturday night's main event. My pick, John Cena retains the Intercontinental title. Man, could you imagine though if Dirty Dom won? I think that place would absolutely explode. Next up, we have the Women's World Championship. Oh boy. Okay, that is Stephanie Vaquer, current champion. If you didn't know that, versus Nikki Bella. Yep, it is 2025. This feud to me, again, very vanilla, rarely on screen for maybe 2 minutes every other week, and I just have limited interest in it because of that. And I have no interest in seeing Nikki Bella inside the ring. Now, this is absolutely no disrespect to Stephanie Vaquer, who I think has been on fire all year, but I think this feud has kind of taken that fire out. I don't know. I don't. Stephanie Vaquer, I do think, is a centerpiece, a future centerpiece of this division. Her promos are getting better. Every match does feel like a showcase for her, but Nikki Bella's return, I think, overshadows that. And to me, it's a nostalgia act. She came back wanting to play the part of a hungry, motivated, and out to prove everybody wrong. But I don't think anybody cares. I mean, I don't. You can care, that's fine. But, obviously, we all know for a little while, Nikki was aligned with, Stephanie Vaquer. They teamed up, they celebrated, they shared the spotlight, and then Nikki turned on her. But if you go back and watch that, I don't know if you will or not, or maybe see the clip on Instagram or anywhere on social media, but when that heel turn happened and Nikki, I think, clotheslined Vaquer, nobody really cared. Um, it's just I don't know, it's a okay story. Actually, no, I don't like the story at all. It's definitely a pay-per-view title match that could have been a Raw match, maybe even a dark match. My prediction, which I swear if Nikki Bella wins that title, oh boy. Um, my bar is clearly very low for Nikki Bella. I do think her last match she had recently, she did look a lot better than I remember, but I do not see WWE ending Stephanie Vaquer's title run just yet, especially not to Nikki Bella. So my prediction: Stephanie Vaquer retains the Women's World Championship. All right, now we're gonna get into your takes. That's enough about me blabbing on about my opinions on Nikki Bella, on just everything, especially the predictions for Survivor Series War Games this weekend. Now we're gonna get into your takes. You submitted your bold predictions and hottest calls earlier this week on Instagram. And as always, the Escape Crew did deliver. So I'm gonna go ahead and shout everybody out. So first off, we have at Dustin Levers. Dustin went on to say that heels win after the bloodline reforms. Now, a bloodline reform at War Games would be wild, but the heels winning because of it, that would flip the entire road to Royal Rumble on its head. I don't think it's likely, but if it happens, we're all going to lose our minds, and I'll be okay with it because, again, I'm an old cranky man. I want to see heel turns, and I want it to be unpredictable. Thank you, Dustin. At Elephantasmo underscore SPG, he went on to say AJ Lee pins Becky Lynch. Yep, I absolutely agree. That's what I predicted. I'll be curious to see what Dave Meltzer says about that match. I don't know if he's going to do it a 5-star or what, but I absolutely agree with that. That is going to happen. Next up, we have at Marcel underscore SCR0309. His prediction: Paige is going to return. Now, my take, a Paige Saraya WWE return could be one of those predictions that always lurks in the background. Like, she's going to come back, but when? Now, Marcel says it's going to happen at Survivor Series. Would I pop? Absolutely. Is Triple H pulling that trigger at War Games? I don't know. That's a tough call, but it would be one of the biggest surprises of the year, if not the biggest. I like that. I like that. All right, next we have at Jesse Aribe 2000. Jesse's prediction went on to say does Charlotte turn on Rhea? Does Jay turn on his team? Charlotte turning on Rhea Ripley would fit, I think. Charlotte's entire career rhythm just all over the place. Chaos just follows Charlotte in and outside of the ring. And Jay turning heel again, I mean, at this point, it's practically tradition. It's definitely not impossible at all. And if and when it does happen, none of us are going to be surprised, especially if it happens in war games. I like that. Next up, we have at Wrestling Chico. Prediction: Io Sky turns heel and helps Asuka. I am so glad Wrestling Chico said this because can you imagine Io Sky and Asuka teaming up as a heel unit? Yes, please inject that straight into my veins. I actually think this one would have real legs. The chemistry is already there. And I think it'd give the women's division a fresh monster duo. And I'm kind of sick of Io Sky being so happy all the time. Again, cranky old man. Next up, we have Real DH88. His prediction: Brock and Logan Paul go solo, and Jey Uso turns heel. Now, Brock and Heyman going solo again would be huge, and pairing that with another Jey heel turn, that's a heavy night of swerves. I don't think they stack both of those up in one night, but I do think one of those two is very, very possible. I hope I'm wrong. I want both of those to happen. Next up, we have at alt underscore wrestling underscore worlds. He went on to say Vision wins. Punk and Cody feud with Roman and the Usos. Yeah, I think Vision winning is honestly, I kind of want to change my pick at this point. I wouldn't be surprised. I think Punk and Cody mixing it up with Roman and the Usos afterward, that's blockbuster storytelling right there. But I do think WWE is still going to save because now they're doing that long term build up crap where it's going to take 6 months to a year. But as we're getting closer to Rumble, of course, and WrestleMania season, we'll have to keep our eye out on those guys. All right, I believe our last take is at tribal underscore jester. He wanted to say Brock turns on Vision and his team. Okay, so now this is a spicy one because Brock turning on Vision instantly creates, I think, a monster storyline. And it's not too far fetched if you think about it. Brock doesn't play well with others, anybody. And War Games is the perfect place for him to snap. That's a great prediction. I like that one. Now, remember, if you want your take featured on the show next week, make sure you're following at Pro Wrestling Escape and drop your thoughts in the next Crowd Speaks box. This will be your reaction to War Games. I will be very, very curious to hear what everybody thinks of Survivor Series War Games this weekend. And that wraps up the Pro Wrestling Escape Survivor Series War Games 2025 preview and predictions episode. If you enjoyed this episode, go ahead and hit follow on Spotify or Apple Podcasts if you haven't done it already. Leave a quick review and please share this with another wrestling fan who is okay to hear my voice. My episodes are usually 20 minutes and less, so if it helps you, 20 minutes of your day to, get away from work, remember it is your escape. But it might feel small, but every follow and every review does help this show reach more people and keeps this community growing. And I know a lot of you out there, I really respect the heck out of you guys and DMing and getting to know everybody. It is a community. All right, off my soapbox. Enjoy Survivor Series, and as always, this is your Pro Wrestling Escape.